Couple of things come to mind that I always hear a lot is that, but I know the biggest thing is, what is the outcome? What are you hoping to achieve by putting a new software into place? Because if you don't know what your end goal is, you don't know where you want to go, or even what you want a new system to do, then nothing you bring in is going to work for you. It could just be, hey, I hate the system I have today. And you're like, okay, that's great.
Nice.
What do you hope to achieve? Is it better reporting? Is it a clear understanding of what your inventory is? Is it having better roles and clarity in what people can and can't do in your solution? And that's going to be one of the main things to have. I think secondly, it would be, is everybody bought into this? Are the leaders understanding that, hey, we're going to need to go with a new solution? We're on board with it? Or is it one person trying to push through everybody saying, okay, we're going this way, whether you want to come or not? And we all know that when you don't have the adoption in place, you get the toxic water holes and everybody starts chit-chatting, and it just sets you up for failure.
Especially
in SMBs. Yeah. And you see it, I know, even on the experience you've had with larger industries as well, and some from mine too. And the other thing I would say is, if you don't have clear processes that are documented, that is something you need to have in place. Even if they're messy, even if they are little to non-existent, you need to have those in place, because if you get a new solution, the way you set it up may not be in alignment with how you want to do your, or not do your work, but have your company function. And that's why processes are so important. And I always tell everybody, make sure you have those from day one, because the day you're going to really need them is day two.
Yeah. And they're one of those things that's not fun to do. Like, let's just be honest. It's not the most fun to, map your processes, especially if you don't know how to do it. And a lot of times with SMBs, they're kind of, a lot of people wear a lot of hats, and there's not a clear, like, you own this process, you own this process type of thing. And there's lots of crossover. So understanding that is so important, not only for systems, like Christy said, but also just for your overall community to have things like understanding and empathy. There's so many times we sit in workshops and we're like, oh, you do that? Like, that's the process you go through? I had no idea. No wonder you're mad when I come over here with a spreadsheet. And they truly had no idea that's how, their counterpart or peer was working in the organization. So I think that's such a good piece of that. And I mean, adding to that, Christy, who should help you identify what your outcomes should be? Should that be a vendor? Should that be a VC? If you're doing funding, like, who should that be?
I think it depends how your company's structured. If you're a small business, you and your leadership should have a clear idea of where you want to go, who you want to be. And then the vendor, when you choose that software, they're going to help bring that to life. It's kind of like you've put the bones in place, and they're going to make it a person or whatnot. And I think that's important. You don't want to have vendors driving the direction of where you should go. And if you're on the VC side, I think it can get complicated in a lot of ways, because the VC is a lot of times the ones providing the funds and leading the way on this, but they still need to have an overall understanding with how the organization is working, so they're not bringing in a solution that's not going to work.
Absolutely. If you don't know who you are as someone who's leading the business and what you want to see out of this new technology, you might as well go throw your money off the roof, because it's never going to produce what you want it to produce, because you don't even know what you want. And that's a big thing of getting SMBs to focus. And that's why, Christy's specialty is around not only SMBs, but family-owned businesses that have gone generation from generation, continuing to grow, that are huge and massive, but still understanding what are your goals are so important. And I think that goes along. Go ahead.
I was going to add one other thing on there too, is just along the lines of the defined roles. A lot of times when you're on older software or you're just starting up in your business, it's that I wear all hats. And when you do move towards new software, those roles start coming into play, and you don't have access to everything in the solution anymore. And that is something that I think is really important in your buy-in phase of things, is getting everybody prepared for what that should be. And going back to having that empathy of, I know you used to be able to see this, and here's the reasonings why this is going into place, is having those checks and balances. I actually had a conversation with a client 2 weeks ago of just helping them understand checks and balances and why things were the way they were, because on their old system, everybody could just go in and do whatever they wanted. I'm like, do you realize, Lucy over here, she could just write a check and you would never even know. And when you start putting more real life examples to them, all of a sudden you see the client be like, okay, yep, I understand now why we need to have the roles in place. And even though it sucks and it's uncomfortable, they'll get used to it.
Absolutely. And I think you hit on something that's so critical there, is that communication, right? Yeah. Defining those roles as a leadership team, even the user access, and understanding what levels, who's going to have which, mapping that out in your organizational assessment prior to looking at the implementation is going to make sure that everyone's comfortable and moving in the same direction. So you can have those conversations, because I think a lot of that resistance comes from surprise, right? When they didn't know they weren't going to have access to these types of things. And all of a sudden it feels like it was secret or deceitful, and nothing good comes from that, right?
No, not at all. You need that transparency all along the lines from the beginning till the end. And I really applaud companies that can do that, where from day one, they're very open of, hey, here's what we're experiencing at the top level of things that you may not be aware of, and why we want to go down this route to get a new system or whatever we're going to get, as opposed to other companies that, they kind of make it secret. And all of a sudden, well, this is the direction we're moving. Good luck. And I even think about that from jobs that I had in the beginning, career, like high school and college, of I worked at an accounting firm, and one day they're like, well, you're not doing this anymore, you're doing this, and wouldn't tell me why. And you kind of think of, well, one, I either did something wrong, you don't think I'm smart enough, it's easy to go the bad route on all of it. But instead they should have been, you're qualified now to go do this over here, and I want you to be in charge of this and help make you even better at your job. And that's where the communication and transparency comes in, and along the lines with the adoption too. Be very, very clear with your teams of what you want, what you hope to get, and get their feedback too.